Welcome to my PD entitled Engaging the Student by Putting Relationships First. Before we get into the topic, I would like to tell you a little bit about myself and why I chose this topic. So my name is Carla Wiley and I live in Augusta, Georgia. I'm currently working on my doctorate and have one more semester to go before I sit for my exam. My educational interests focus on student engagement. While I was working on one of my other classes, I realized that a huge factor of student engagement involves how the students perceive their relationships with their teachers. So that is what I'm going to focus on today. Even if you think you have a pretty good relationship with your students, you can always improve. So hopefully you'll be able to get some takeaways from my presentation. I would like to start out this PD by doing a brief warm-up exercise. So I want you to take some time and think about the teacher who has had the most positive effect on your life. What was so unique about them? What characteristics do you share with them? What can you do to be more like them? Pause the video and write down on a sheet of paper the answers to these questions. The objective of this professional development is to describe what student engagement is and to enhance the student-teacher relationships, since this plays a role in student engagement. This is the agenda for our professional development today. I'm going to start out by defining student engagement, and then I'm going to cite evidence that shows that when students are engaged. Then I'm going to talk briefly about at-risk students. I will continue on to talk about the relationship between student engagement and achievement. Then I will focus on the differences between positive and negative student-teacher relationships. The next thing I'm going to focus on is how to foster a good relationship with your students. Then I'm going to look at how to improve a negative student-teacher relationship. I will then summarize my final thoughts and we will conclude with the references. I would like to start out by defining what exactly is meant by the phrase student engagement. According to the National Center of Safe Support Learning Environments, students' engagement is the amount of psychological investment that a student is willing to make in their learning environment. So in other words, how much time and effort and energy are they willing to put into your class? Wang and Wan further defines student engagement as a student's willingness to participate in classroom activities. So according to Achenbach and his associates, the signs of student engagement include having a high school attendance rate, having a strong interest in the subject, and putting forth effort into understanding tough concepts. So rather than just quitting when things get tough, they are willing to put in the effort to try to understand these difficult concepts. While we should be focused on engaging all of our students, we also need to acknowledge and to make note of certain students are more at risk of being unengaged in the classroom. These ones include students from low SES schools, um, ethnic minorities, and females. According to Koser and Jovic, students who are actively engaged in school tend to perform better academically and are less likely to drop out than their unengaged peers. In fact, they state that student engagement is a prerequisite for student learning, which makes sense because you can't learn if you're not exactly focused on the material and what's going on around you. According to Magro et al., the relationship between the student and their teacher plays a large role not only in the student's adjustment to school, but also to their relationship with their peers. These students who have a positive relationship with their teachers tend to have a higher level of student engagement and fewer emotional and behavioral issues than those who don't. Now we are going to look at some signs of some positive and negative student-teacher relationships. So according to Rem Kaufman and Sandilos, there are some signs of a positive student-teacher relationship. And these signs include the student having a high level of trust towards the teacher, a student willing to open up about their personal life to the teacher, and the teacher expressing interest in that, a student being willing to share with their teachers their struggles, both academically and personally. According to Ren Kaufman and Sandilos, there are some signs of a negative student-teacher relationship. Number one, the teacher has a lot of negative energy towards the student and may express this negative energy in the forms of being irritable and maybe even angry towards the student. The classrooms where there are not good teacher-student relationships also tend to have some bullying going on in them. And the teacher may find themselves yelling at the students in order to try to maintain control. Now we are going to take a brief moment for you to ponder and reflect on what we have learned so far. Think about the best student-teacher relationship that you have and compare it with a student that you do not have as good a relationship with. Think about the differences in how you responded to the students and what sticks out the most to you when thinking about these relationships. I would like you to at this time to go ahead and pause this video and then just think about it for about a minute, and then I'm going to have you all work with a partner to talk about this. Now that we have covered what student engagement is, why it is so important, and the role that the student-teacher relationship plays in student engagement, we will now turn our attention as to what can be done to set the relationship off on the right track, and what strategies can be done to improve a relationship that had a rocky start. Now we are going to look at some ways to foster a good relationship with your students. Even if you feel that you have a good relationship with your students currently, there's always room for improvement. So the first thing you need to do is actually get to know your students. Learn their names, hobbies, and interests. A student that feels that the teacher doesn't care to get to know them is not likely to be engaged in the class. Next, you need to be aware of the messages, both verbal and nonverbal, that you are sending to your student. Next, don't give up on having a positive relationship with your difficult students. It may take more time and effort, but it can still be turned around. Next thing, create a positive classroom atmosphere, in part by promoting positive behavior as a means of being proactive against misbehavior rather than acting in a punitive manner. And then also, offer to help your students with other things, even if it is non-academic. It's worth that 5 or 10 minutes to be able to assist the student in their struggles rather than just letting them focus on it on their own if it's not academic. Now we're going to look at how to improve your relationship with difficult students. First, praise them for exhibiting positive behaviors. All people love positive reinforcement, and they are more likely to engage in those behaviors if they see you praising them and thanking them for doing so. Next, even if you haven't done so already, take the time to get to know your students better. Try to use some of the tips that I mentioned in the previous slide, even with your difficult students. And it may be very difficult at first to get them to open up to you, but gradually, if you show them continued interest, they will show interest back. And then show them that they can trust you. And one of the best ways to do this is to say what you mean and mean what you say. Alright, now it is time to put this professional development to practice. Get a partner and role play how you would try to improve a relationship with a difficult student. You may want to take turns so that both partners get a chance to be the student and both partners get a chance to be the teacher. Go ahead and pause this video at this time and work on your role play. Now, I would like to share some final thoughts with you. As teachers, we should be doing whatever we can to improve students' academic achievement. And one way we can do this is by having engaged students, and a factor that influences student engagement is the relationship with their teacher. These relationships vary from student to student, but one thing is true. We can continue to improve relationships with all of our students by getting to know them better and by having a vested interest in their lives. Here are the first 4 of my references. If you would like to be able to see them in more detail so you can look them up yourself, you can go ahead and pause the video here. These are my final 3 references. I thank you for the time that you've taken today to participate in this professional development. If you have any further questions, you can contact me through my email or through D2L. I hope you have a good day, and thank you for taking the time to view my presentation.